Golden State Media Concepts Fantasy Football Podcast is your one-stop shop for fantasy football news and advice. Can't decide on who to draft on the first round? Going gaga on how to line up your team. We've got you covered. Traditional leagues, dynasty leagues, PPR leagues, IDP league, even daily fantasy football league. Join us as we break down all the questions of fantasy football. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Fantasy Football Podcast.
What is up? Welcome into the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast on a Thursday today here. Welcome in. My name is Tom Dougherty, your host. As always, this podcast is brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. Today, I wanted to do something a little bit different. I know we usually go through, like last time I went through all the top 10 players of the NFL top 100. I do done a lot of mock drafts. We'll get back to that eventually, but I mean, as we get closer to training camp and starting to figure out what the draft's going to look like, I know we have a lot of ideas already. But I also wanted to go through today, and I was thinking about, because I was watching a thing on Twitter yesterday about Christian McCaffrey and about when the story of Christian McCaffrey when he was hiking with some friends and family in Colorado, when he was there when a older man fell off of the track and off of the trail and down these rocks, and it seemed like quite a far fall. He broke a few different bones in his body. I think ribs, his leg, his pelvis, and he was on the almost very, very close to losing his life there on the trail. And Christian McCaffrey was able to be of assistance to get the emergency services over there. And it was a story kind of all over the NFL during the offseason. It got pretty widespread. But then the Panthers actually came out with a whole little documentary thing where they were doing interviews with the family of the man who he helped save. But the man himself was in the documentary. The older gentleman. They invited the family to go to a Panthers game this coming season. So that's pretty cool. And it made me think about, there's a lot of good college players out there who have made it to the NFL. I mean, now Christian's going to be a sophomore player this coming season. We can do that, kind of look at that too, best sophomore players, and we have a bunch of guys like Alvin Kamara and a Kareem Hunt who are going to be sophomore players next year. But I just want to look at some other guys, some of the legendary, well, not legendary, but like guys who are in the league this year, NFL players, not retired guys, but like NFL players who are there, whether it's an Aaron Rodgers or it's Adrian Peterson, not so much, but Aaron Rodgers is a good example. He had a nice little college career. I mean, look at the quarterbacks in our league right now. Aaron Rodgers went to Cal. Tom Brady went to Michigan. There's your two blue blood schools, or red blooded American universities: University of California, Berkeley, Michigan, University of Michigan. Think about the other ones. One went to Purdue. That was Drew Brees. Big Ben went to Miami of Ohio. Wisconsin was. I mean, that's a good football program. That's that's Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson went to Wisconsin. Obviously, we have a university. Where did what Carson Wentz was? He South Dakota, right, or North Dakota? I think Carson Wentz was South Dakota. Yeah, so Carson Wentz. I mean, obviously, a lot of these new guys like Andrew Luck went to Stanford and Clemson, Deshaun Watson. These younger guys, obviously, we know who the big programs are right now. But there's still a lot of quarterbacks out there who Matt Ryan went to Boston College. Really? I want to say Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco, I feel like is going to be finding himself off the field pretty soon here. Yeah, North Dakota State for Carson Wentz. I always get it confused, but yeah, Joe Flacco went to Delaware, so of all places. So yeah, I mean, there's lots of different places where you can find success in college and translate that to the NFL game. There's lots of guys who were very visible in college and haven't been able to stay healthy, whether it's an RG3 or it's a Trent Richardson. I know Derrick Henry's finding kind of a second life, and he's been able to get, not second life, but a good career in the NFL. We'll talk about him too. But I just want to look at some of these top college guys to make it to the NFL within the last few years. There'll be probably some other guys in there as well. But the last few years, top college guys, and then look at their fantasy outlook. And we'll also probably look at the top 10 of fantasy in general, the top 10 fantasy rankings, and just look at where did these guys go to college? We didn't really hear, like, David Johnson. Did you hear of David Johnson in college? I'm sure some people did. David Johnson in college, like Odell Beckham. He went to LSU. Do we really remember Odell Beckham in college? Obviously, I think the one guy we do remember is like Derrick Henry is pretty obvious. I'm trying to think of another guy who is in the top of the draft right now. Like an Alvin Kamara. You didn't watch Tennessee football. No, you didn't. I know you didn't. Because it just says these guys. Le'Veon Bell went to Michigan State. Did you guys remember that? I have to get reminded of that all the time. I know it off the top of my head now, but back when I first started watching Le'Veon Bell, I was like, he went to Michigan State. That's right, Michigan State of all places. Todd Gurley, he went to Georgia. There you go. Todd Gurley went to Georgia. But so we'll probably go through the top 10. Maybe that's like in the third segment, but I did make a little list of guys that I want to talk about regarding fantasy guys who, this is also what I was thinking about with Christian McCaffrey, because I consider myself a Stanford football supporter, so I like Stanford. Being out here in California, you find a team, and Andrew Luck was a great player to watch in college and kind of fell in love with that Stanford football program. Gotta love Jim Harbaugh when he was there. David Shaw taking right over for that, keeping the culture there in Stanford, Palo Alto. Christian McCaffrey played at Stanford, and he was obviously. Imagine if you had Christian McCaffrey, if you could do a college football fantasy team, and you had Christian McCaffrey, you'd win. You might win your league, because obviously he was really, 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 really good, really good. So you can do that. That's what I thought about. I'm like, imagine if I had Christian McCaffrey in a fantasy league. So for the Fantasy Football Podcast, I wanted to go over some of the top college players. And see how, some of the top guys in the NFL who also were top college players. And you'd be surprised how many, there were some, but there were not as many as you think. Some of these top guys, they kind of flame out a little bit. They get injured. The Alabama guys get kind of worn down. Whether it's, you look at the, I think the NFL did come out with the list regarding how many guys from the NFL top 100, how many, they broke them down by university, which actually was pretty cool. I think Ohio State had the most with 8 different players. I think in the NFL top 100 rankings, which is pretty cool. So you got to give credit to your the Buckeyes there at Ohio State. Like Ezekiel Elliott was one of them. Michael Thomas was one of them. I'm trying to think of other guys that were on that list as I've looked for the list right now. But we're going to talk about some of the top college players to translate their game into the NFL without a hitch. Seemingly, it's going to be a fun one. As we'll start with Christian. Honestly, starting with Christian's easy because Christian watched a lot of him in college. Obviously, one season in the NFL turns it on. I was kind of expected that with Christian because he was so good out of the backfield catching the football, and that's the big thing in the NFL now, where you're able to really get. He's such a mismatch. It's just a mismatch machine. I want him on my fantasy team this year. I think he's going to be even better and better, getting better every single year because he's just a guy who has that motor. He has the motor. He has the drive. He has the compassion to put in the work. There's a lot of different things you have to worry about when you are preparing for an NFL season and trying to put together a good NFL season, let alone getting your body right, whether it is. But this guy is a physical specimen. He's a darn good player. So you got to give him credit, and I'm definitely excited. I'm excited for him for next year. In Carolina especially, they got a good young little receiver there in DJ Moore. That Carolina offense should be ready to go. Maybe you'll see a resurgence of Cam Newton. Cam Newton has had up and down seasons. He's had accuracy issues. I have speaking issues. But I think that the more chemistry Christian has with Cam, the better. And it's the more security blanket, the more Cam is comfortable. Just give him the ball and let him run. I just think that it's a good thing. It's a good thing, and it's a good, great. I mean, that pick by the Panthers last year. I mean, I was wishing the Christian would drop all the way to my team. Obviously, we weren't picking. We would have to trade back into the round because we were picking kind of late, kind of early in that draft. The Niners last season, or in 2017. But no, the Panthers got themselves a guy who's going to be a fantasy force, and you might see him. I mean, I don't think he's ever going to be up in the top 10 with the Bells and anytime soon. Maybe in like 2 or 3 years, you'll see him in the top 10. If he turns into a Le'Veon Bell and has 35 touches a game and can get to that 2,000 yard, maybe 3,000 all-purpose yard mark, which is what he did that in college. He was what did he lead all-purpose yards in college? Was crazy. I mean, it was just absolutely insane how many yards that guy puts together. Whether it was, all-purpose yards are all-purpose, so it's catching, running, punt returns, kick returns, everything. So, and that's what he does. I'm not sure. Did the Panthers have him a kick returner last year? That's one thing that would be such a weapon. I think this year they have their guy, DJ Moore. DJ Moore, I think, is going to be the kick returner this year. But no, yeah, Christian McCaffrey is nice. If you put both guys out there, you'll probably have a good chance of getting. You'll have a good chance of getting good field position or getting a score, maybe even a score off of a special teams play. So you got to give him credit. I love Christian McCaffrey. Got to love him, and the fact that he is going to put in so much. I mean, he's going to put in the work. The guy's not only is a hard worker, he's a hard worker, and he's also got is able to create his body type where he's so light on his feet. He's not only can he break tackles and lower his pad level to get down through the hole and break tackles, but he's so quick on the feet, and he almost, you look at him cut. Watch him cut, and then go watch him and Zeke and Le'Veon Bell all next to each other. He's getting there. He's very close to that level where he can cut with the best of them. And like I said, he's going to be up there in the top 10. I'm telling you, he's going to be up in the top 10 rankings. No question about it. I feel like very, very, very confident about that, especially with the way the Panthers and they have their offense set up. It's a very friendly passing game for him. The thing is also, he's not going to be no chump either. He's going to sit in there and pass block. He's going to hit you right in the mouth. I mean, this is the son of an NFL player who, he was Ed McCaffrey was a receiver. They know how valuable it is as a skill position player to do your job when it comes to blocking and setting up plays for your other teammates. So you got to give him credit. You got to give him credit there, as he has shown to do that even at a young age in the NFL. I mean, this guy's only like 23 years old. And he's played a season in the NFL. It was a nice little rookie season he put together. It wasn't crazy like a Kamara or a Hunt, but it's a nice little rookie season that he put together. He'll definitely be on the sophomore to watch list. I just wanted to talk about him because I started off the show with him this year, but this morning. But I do like my Christian McCaffrey. Do not be afraid to pick him. I mean, honestly, I think he's right there with the. Maybe a little bit. I put him right with the Jerick McKinnons of the world kind of thing. Really good pass catching running back. I mean, he has the ceiling to be a Todd Gurley. I think he has a ceiling. You saw what he did in college. This isn't no slouch. This is Pac-12 football. You play against USC. You play against UCLA. You play against Washington, Cal, Oregon. These are all NFL players getting drafted. Arizona, even Arizona State. I mean, they get guys picked up to the NFL. There's no slouches. He's not playing in the Mountain West, not playing even the Big 12. I'm sorry, Big 12, but even the Big 12. He didn't play in that. He played in the Pac-12, and he had faced some serious competition, and he was in literally every single kind of situation you could figure out in Stanford, the way they ran that offense, the innovative offense down there at Stanford. So all of his preparation, his pedigree, his work ethic, his family, everything, his heart, his ability to help in an emergency situation. I mean, I advise you to go on the Carolina Panthers Twitter account, and they have a 2-part little I think it's like 14 minutes added together of this little episode they created, talking to the family that of the man that he saved, and then obviously to Christian as well. So it was pretty moving, and wanted to give the Christian his due diligence with this segment for him. So in the next segment, we're going to go over a couple more players that were pretty lights out in college, pretty fun watching college. And I think I know we could talk about the rookies all you want. Honestly, we still can get to that, maybe even the third segment and fourth segment as well. But I want to look at some of these top guys in college and see how they translated to the NFL. And I think I said one of the guys I want to talk about already a few seconds ago when I was talking about Ohio State. So let's do that when we come back. Stay tuned.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, welcome back to GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast on a Thursday today. Second segment of the day as we're going to go back into the well here of these talented college players that have translated their game into the NFL well. I found my list, guys. I found my list of those NFL players. They were in the top 100, and they split them up by school to show off which schools had the most players. Ohio State did lead the way with 8 players in that NFL top 100. I'll list them. I'll make a list of them out. Joey Bosa was number 37. Rice Shazier, number 47. Cameron Hayward, Ezekiel Elliott, Michael Thomas, Marshawn Lattimore, Malcolm Jenkins, and Carlos Hyde. Round out the crop from Ohio State. So we can go through there's a couple guys on there that I want to bring up, and one of them is Michael Thomas, and I love Michael Thomas. I love Michael Thomas fantasy-wise. You've heard me talk about Michael Thomas on the show a lot. He'd be my number. I think he'd be my number one receiver pick. Easy. I mean, if I had a pick late, if I was a late first round pick, I'd take him. My only little hiccup, teeny little red flag with him is the fact that their offense is not going that way. If that offense was the way it was before, the way Drew Brees had it before, when the Saints were rolling with Jimmy Graham and Marcus Colston and who else did they have? They had I think Kenny Stills too, probably. But they had all those receivers, and they were just slinging it every time. Drew Brees would drop back 50 times a game. They're not doing that anymore. They run it a lot, obviously. I mean, they're going to be without Ingram for the first 4 weeks. But they run it a lot. And they run it more, and they more and more than they have ever had before. And they obviously rely on their defense as well. You can see that there's another name I listed off of that Ohio State list that is on their defense. That's Marshawn Lattimore. And if you were to have a individual defensive player team, if you are an IDP league, those are no-brainer right there. If you're thinking about even as a second-year player, this guy was he? Was he a Pro Bowler as a rookie? I'm pretty sure he was, or even second team All-Pro as a rookie. So that's a talented guy right there at Ohio State, Marshawn Lattimore. But that's defense. Offensively, Michael Thomas obviously is the number one guy, the number one target for Drew Brees this year, which is great. He'll get the volume probably anyways because of that, and because of his talent anyways. He's a big body receiver, great weapon to use in the red zone, along the sideline possession situations, third down situations as well. But you know that they're not throwing the ball as much down the field with Drew. They're having more of the dink and duck kind of plays, lots of screens, lots of of swing passes, likes to end around plays, lots of 2-back sets with Ingram and Kamara in there, kind of making things work. Whether they're going to slide Kamara out to the slot for an empty set or a single back set, and they'll motion Kamara out. They have that offense is so innovative with Sean Payton there, and with the addition of Kamara, I mean the addition of Michael Thomas too. The guy's, I think, what's he? He's not a rookie. He wasn't a rookie last year. I think he was a second-year player last year, so he's coming into his third or fourth year in the NFL. So he knows the game. He knows Drew. They got a little chemistry. They got some camaraderie built up. So you can't knock. Gotta love Michael Thomas. And fantasy wise, yeah. I mean, fantasy wise, honestly, yeah. If you're a late first round pick, if you're in a 10-12 man league and AB's gone and Julio's gone and DeAndre Hopkins is gone, honestly, I think the only two guys I would take before him are Antonio Brown and DeAndre Hopkins. I probably would take him before Julio. Julio was underwhelming last year. He was. Sorry, Julio. I know you're on this list too. You're the number 4 player overall in the ESPN Top 100 because the fact that you're number 4, DeAndre's not even in the top 10, that means I don't think DeAndre's been in the league long enough, or not enough NFL players are watching Texans games. Texans haven't been that good. The Falcons went to the Super Bowl 2 years ago, and I mean I've even seen there was quotes from players that say they think that Julio Jones deserves to be number 1. Who said that? Doug Baldwin. He said, I would always put Julio number 1 because Julio, yeah, pedigree-wise, he's done great, but what have you done for me lately, Julio? You kind of had an underwhelming season last year, Julio. You were on the guy who I beat in the semifinals last year. That's the team you were on last year. You got beat. So you couldn't really do much. I had DeAndre Hopkins. Oh, I won the league. Shocker. Like, just telling you, Julio, there's lots of different options. That Matt Ryan doesn't have any reservations for you or any kind of, I have to throw it to Julio. Oh, my gosh. No, he's got Mohamed Sanu. He's got a nice little young kid now, Calvin Ridley. He's got two nice little running backs behind him, Devonta Freeman and Tevin Coleman. I mean, what's not to like there in Atlanta? So, yeah, Julio has big games. He'll have a 200-yard game, 3 touchdowns, blah, 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 15 catches, meh. But he'll also have a 5-catch game when they bracket coverage him all day. For 5 games, 50 yards. Good job, Julio. Chalk it up. So, I mean, that's my soapbox on Julio. He's obviously on the list of those college players I was talking about, as he, of course, is an alumnus of the University of Alabama and had a very nice college career. And he's going to have another Crimson Tide player coming to play with him this coming season. That's Mr. Ridley. I'm not sure how he's going to. I think if he's going to have success, it's going to be mostly off of the fact that Julio is going to be double covered. I think Sanu is due for a good year this year because of that. I think there's going to be a lot of different options they're going to make defenses work. That's for sure. They're going to spread them thin. There are a lot of options there on the outside of on the receiver position. So Matt Ryan will have lots of places to throw the ball to. Obviously, they also have a nice tight end in Austin Hooper as well. So lots of options there for the Falcons down in Atlanta, as they have a couple guys. But another guy obviously on this list is from Ohio State. He came in at number 54 in the ESPN Top 100 rankings, and I think if he wasn't suspended last year and missed 6 games, he would definitely be higher because these rankings they told the players to rank them based off of the performance last year, which is why I'm just like, how did Julio get to number 4 based off his performance last year? But whatever. Zeke Elliott is what I was talking about. Obviously, when I said suspension, number 54 Ohio on the rankings from Ohio State. Him and Carlos Hyde were the 2 running backs at Ohio State, back to back. Kind of good little finds there by Mr. Coach Urban Meyer. And obviously Zeke had a nice little career down in Ohio State. They win a national championship. He's all over TV. He's got his shirt pulled down halfway. He's wearing all these little crop shirts and whatever it might be. But he's definitely turned that into a great NFL career. It helps when you have one of the best NFL, offensive lines in NFL history on your team. We could actually bring some of that up. Zach Martin could be on this show. I mean, unfortunately, that wouldn't really make any sense for fantasy, but he was a great college player in Notre Dame. And now he finally getting his money from the Cowboys this offseason. But That's an interesting thing. But no, Ezekiel Elliott, where do you pick him though in fantasy? I think you have to really take it out of from. I mean, take the mock drafts that I've done don't take him for granted. Take him and say, okay, PPR, maybe he slides a little bit, so maybe you can be a little sneaky and get him with the 6th or 5th pick or something like that. I mean, depends what always read your room. Always read your room. Go do some little conversation with your teammates. See if anybody will leak anything. I'm very close to the vest about what I'm going to do in the draft prior to the draft starting. But say you can get a little communication going with some of the other players in your draft in your league. Maybe see what they're thinking about Zeke. Maybe see if they think because it's basically how do you value Zeke? Especially if you're in PPR. Do you value Zeke more than David Johnson in PPR? Do you value Zeke more than Gurley in PPR? I don't think you do more than Bell. It's the one guy who I think will stand above all of them, especially in PPR. But then even in non-PPR, that's when it gets really tough, honestly. Because I think Zeke might leapfrog might leapfrog all of them, honestly, in not PPR, because he's just so good off the run. He doesn't have to be... he doesn't have to catch it out of the backfield to be successful. He can find success just running it up the gut, power running game. It doesn't matter. So especially with honestly, last season, yeah, Cowboys fans, your Eagles, the dreaded Eagles won the Super Bowl, but you may have gotten a little blessing in disguise. I know you probably wish that Zeke just took his suspension a little earlier, but that's 6 games of hits less for him last year. That's 6 games of wear and tear less for him last year. I know he's a young kid. He could bounce back. He's like a little elastic rubber band. He could bounce right back. But still, over time, wear and tear running backs, what's the average career length for a running back? 2.5 years, 3 years, maybe? They get hurt. They get grounded and pounded, tackled every play, bounced around, squished and squeezed, and every single thing you could possibly think of to a running back. They fumble, they get poked and pinched and prodded going after the ball. I mean, it's the NFL. It's not a hanky-panky. It's real men stuff. So, I mean, yeah, NFL, but even if you're a young kid, 23 years old, Ezekiel Elliott, that 6 games, you might bounce back fresher than a spring chicken coming up this season. So, honestly, he might be one of the more, even as a first-round pick, he could be underrated. He could be underrated because you could pick him 5th. You could pick 3. There could be 3 running backs before him. 3 running backs before him, in many fantasy drafts. And PPR probably makes sense because, I mean, actually this season, I don't know. My fantasy simulator may not, I mean, did they know Jason Witten's retired? That's the one thing. There's so many variables in fantasy football, so many variables. Who's going to get the most touches? Where's the ball going to go? How is it going to work every year? Is Zeke going to be more effective out of the passing game, or is he going to be more effective just handing him the football and letting him run, or both? Is he worth taking it up in the top of the first half of that first round, even in PPR when you have a Bell or a Gurley or a David Johnson to pick from, or even a Kamara, or if you guys think that college just automatically means for success in the NFL, Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley is taboo to me this year. Sorry about it, but he just is. The Giants line offensive line is not that good. It's not like he's just rolling right into the Cowboys offensive line. He's not. But I do like Kamara. I do like the fact he's going to get a lot of touches during that first 4 weeks of the season. He can get you 4 wins right there just based off of volume alone. But yeah, no, I'm not the biggest Saquon fan. The Giants I don't know. Maybe he might get worn down. That's the thing. You might rely too much on him, whether it's throwing the ball to the backfield or handing it off, because Eli's going to need a lot of help back there. Hopefully Saquon can block. I mean, that's the one thing. Hopefully Saquon can block a blitzer. I'm just waiting for him for the first. I'm looking at this Giants schedule really quick here, because honestly this is interesting, but the Giants, do they play the Broncos this year? I can't wait till Von Miller comes and just blows up Saquon Barkley. No offense to Saquon. You seem like a nice kid. You're on the, hey, rookie, welcome to the NFL. You're a smart kid. You know what's going on. You even figured out when your phone didn't ring with that first pick of the NFL draft and nobody else's phone rang in that green room. Oh, Baker Mayfield's not here. I mean, I knew Baker was going to get picked first overall. Because I just know the Browns. But everybody seemed like it was going to be shocked. They're like, "Oh my, the roof's going to come off this place." Trey Wingo, the roof's going to come off this place if Baker gets picked first. But no, Saquon was right with it. So you got to give him. He's a smart kid, but is he going to be able to translate in the NFL? Is he going to be able to hold up? I think he's going to get overutilized as too young of an age. He's not going to be able to work his way in. I mean, Christian McCaffrey worked his way in, eventually popped in the second half of the season. Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey has another running back in the backfield with him at all times. His name is Cam Newton. Saquon's got a grandpa in a wheelchair. Sorry, Eli, but you are. You are. That's basically what you are. Compared to Ferrari Cam over there with wheels. Sorry, Eli, you are. You're a potato gun in a pistol league. Just you are. So that's my outlook on Saquon. But yeah, no. As far as Zeke, I think he's going to be a bounce back season. I think he's definitely deserves a top 5 pick. Whether PPR, maybe a 6th pick, you can draft him. But always keep trying to get as much inside information. See where your players, what your teammates are thinking, and you can maybe steal Zeke if nobody's really high on Zeke coming out especially because of the suspension. Then maybe you can grab him with like a 6th, 7th, or 8th pick in that first round. All right, I'll be right back with some more talk. We'll get to the next college. I'm going to do some talk on some Georgia players, maybe a couple more Alabama players. We'll round out the rest of these schools that had some really good talent and have translated it to the NFL well. And we'll look at the outlook for their season as well coming up. All right, stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA Podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, welcome back to GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast on a Thursday. Just got done calling Eli Manning a potato gun in a pistol league. I mean, you can call it a sniper rifle league. I don't like making gun analogies, but there are some guys with some absolute sniper rifles attached to their shoulders when it comes to throwing the football. Very, very accurate. Especially your Rodgers, your Manning. I mean, your not Mannings, Rodgers, your Wentzes, your Brady's, what have you. Jimmy Garoppolo, Drew Brees, Wilson. You know, he doesn't have very many people to throw it to. But yeah, no. So we'll see how Saquon. That's probably the most intriguing rookie definitely this year is without a doubt Saquon. I know Baker Mayfield, but I don't really care. He's a quarterback. He just plays for the Browns. I don't honestly could care less. But no, Saquon definitely most intriguing. I thought the Giants. Yeah, you can't pass on you had Tiki Barber was last time you had a really good running back, but watch the 30 for 30 on Eli Manning draft night. Watch it. He didn't want to go to San Diego. He didn't want to play for the Chargers. So what did the Giants do? They made a move. They made a move to get Eli Manning. They drafted Phillip Rivers. They traded Phillip Rivers to the Chargers. And now the rest is history. You have 2 rings. You made a move for a quarterback-driven league. Sam Darnold was your quarterback. He was sitting right there. Now he's going to play in the other locker room. He's going to be in the stadium still. You're going to be able to see him all the time. He's going to be there. He's going to be in the stadium, but he's not on your team. He's playing on the other team, your little brother team. The Jets supposed to be the little brother, and they got the quarterback. I know it's all about potential, all about we don't know. He throws a lot of interceptions, not very good ball security, but this was all the reports out. Unless you were lying, unless you were trying to get I don't know. You knew there was no games to play. They weren't trying to get the Browns not to pick Saquon first. Why would they do that? Because, we're going to act like we don't even want Saquon. So the Browns think they can get him at 4 probably because the Jets are definitely going to take a quarterback. So the Browns are going to take quarterback number 1. So we can get Saquon number 2. That's the only game they could have played because the Browns had a second pick. So if the Giants said they didn't want Saquon at 2, they wanted the quarterback, they wanted Sam Darnold, they were trying to probably maybe bait the Browns into picking Sam Darnold with the first pick. They would get Saquon. And the Browns could have thought maybe they would have got Saquon with the 4th pick. It doesn't matter what quarterback the Browns took. They took Baker Mayfield. I thought the Giants, they have the potato gun man over there. I love Eli. Gotta love. He beat Brady twice in the Super Bowl. Love Eli, but he's done. He's done. I'm sorry, Eli. You're getting older. You're worried about making sure that the Odell Beckham is fed. Yeah, make sure you gotta feed Odell in the first half of the game. No, you don't. No, you don't. Go tell that diva to sit down and get open. Just get open. I'll find you. Don't worry. I don't need to feed you. Get open and I'll find you. Stop. I don't like any of this. Eli is so passive. When you have a brat diva receiver like that, I'm not a big Odell fan either. But you got to tell him and you got to put him in his place. Sorry, Eli, you're the freaking man there. You have the 2 rings there. Why don't you go put your rings on and shove them in the face of Odell Beckham and say, hey, stop messing around with the kicking nets. Stop getting hurt with your spindly little ankles, and stop messing around with freaking Josh Gorman and play some football. And maybe you'll get one of these. Look who we just picked. We got a transcendent running back, and I'm on my last legs here. Let's go get a freaking championship. Like, come on. I mean, that defense is supposed to be crazy. Landon Collins, and I know they just traded Jason Pierre-Paul, but the defense is supposed to be crazy, amazing. Not amazing, but like better than they had before. When they, you know what happens when they win the Super Bowl? They had very, very good defenses. They had Michael Strahan. They had, I'm trying to think of their secondary. Did they have Janoris Jenkins back then? Janoris Jenkins, his family's that's a whole different story. But what's going on right now? But I know what was I going to say? The Giants defense back when they won the Super Bowl was their defensive line. Their defensive line, whether it was going to be I'm trying to think what their Osi Umenyiora. There you go. I couldn't think of his name. Michael Strahan, Umenyiora, those 2 guys just really disrupting Brady. There. That's what you do. You take advantage of a good defense. You have a good defense this year. You have good weapons on the offensive side. You got Evan Ingram, an up-and-coming tight end. I like Evan Ingram better. I think Evan Ingram has a better career outlook. Maybe because he's a tight end, it's not as sexy as a running back. But I think Saquon, the biggest thing for him is he actually can catch the ball out of the backfield. That probably will be a saving grace. He'll be a nice little weapon for Eli to get to on those checkdowns, and he's probably pretty elusive. Out of the backfield, I think he's going to have trouble. He's going to have trouble finding the holes. He's going to have trouble being over and over and over again. Bell cow back. Look at his stats in college. The guy did not get utilized. He didn't get overutilized very often. He didn't have to go grind it out very often. He got those big home run hitting plays, got off the field, and went and had a juice box, and came back on the field, ran 2 more plays, and that's it. I mean, I think the most touches he had in the game was like 33, which is high, but that was only one time. And I've talked about it a million times on the show with Saquon Barkley. The guy doesn't have the same amount of games averaging over 3 yards as the 2 running backs that came out before him that have been very good in the NFL. Even look at Kamara. I bet you I haven't looked at his yards per game stats, but I know that McCaffrey never averaged under 4 yards a carry, and Zeke had 1 game where he averaged under 3 yards a carry. One game. Everything else was over 3 or more. So, and Saquon had multiple games under 3 yards a carry. So everybody's like, oh my God, it was the combine. He did some really good stuff in his underwear, in his little skivvies. So, and he one thing is the bench press. Yeah, that was impressive. I think he'll be fine blocking players. I just want to see Von Miller get up in his face. I was gonna look at the Giants. Well, even if it's not Von Miller, he's gonna play the Cowboys twice this year. It's gonna be what's his face for the Cowboys? Demarcus Lawrence for the Cowboys gonna come up in his face and just ramroll him. Or Irving for the Cowboys, or Paris Cox for the Eagles. It doesn't matter. I mean, look at the other teams in the league, what they've done. The Giants. Eli Manning, okay, old. Then you have Alex Smith. They trade for him in Washington because they know they're going to lose Kirk Cousins, so they get Alex Smith. He's not old. He's a very playoff. Well, he hasn't really that much, but he's had success in the playoffs. He's had success. We know all about Alex Smith. And then you have your two young kids over in the other two teams in your division with Carson Wentz. They should have been the MVP last year if he doesn't get hurt on a fluke bad plant of his knee. And then Dak. So yeah, you need to line up a little bit better there. I think Sam would have been a better pick, but this isn't a draft show. This is supposed to be about second-year players or third-year players or guys who are crazy in college and have already proved themselves at least a little bit in the NFL. Saquon, not so much yet. Got a few more months to do that, to figure that one out. But we'll go back to it now in this third segment. I think I said Landon Collins, actually, and he's a defensive guy, but there's another guy right there out of the University of Alabama. Same thing as Marshawn Lattimore, safety. Very, very talented safety. Pick him. That's an easy, no-brainer pick for a safety if you're in an IDP league. I think there's 3 safeties in the league right now that are really heads and arms above a lot of people. I mean, maybe you could throw Malcolm Jenkins in there too with the Steelers, but I think Kevin Baird on the Titans and obviously Landon Collins and Marshawn Lattimore. Those are your guys. We'll see how Derwin James, that's another big name. He hasn't played yet. He's a rookie coming in this season, but he's also a big name to keep an eye on at the safety position this coming season for the Chargers too. So make sure you look for that one. But I know this is a fantasy show. We'd like to talk about offense. So we'll go back to offense and talk about another guy who had a big college career and has turned into a very nice NFL career himself. That's AJ Green. I've had AJ Green on my fantasy team. I picked him first overall. I think he's more of a second receiver these days. It'd be a great pick to get if you say. I mean, honestly, I don't know. Say you get a top flight running back, you had a first early pick in the first round, which means you're going to have a late pick in the second round. You get AJ Green. That's not a bad little first receiver there. And then say you get you're going to have probably back-to-back picks. So you're going to have an early pick in that third round. So now you can go get maybe a LaShawn McCoy or a Jeremy McKinnon if he's still available. So now you have a pass-catching running back, which is kind of like a both. You as a kind of a hybrid where you have a guy who's going to get PPR. This is up for PPR. Usually assume I'm talking about PPR. But, I mean, I'll address it usually like that. But, yeah, PPR, you have kind of a hybrid where he's going to get catches like a receiver, but he's also going to run the ball, so get those premium points, 10 yards a point. So you get a guy like that along with the top flight running back, and then your AJ Green. Now you're probably chill with, like, getting a Deshaun Jackson or no, not Deshaun Jackson. I'm trying to think of somebody else here off the top of my head. Maybe like even a Doug Baldwin in that second receiver position. I'm trying to think of who has been going in like the fourth round. Maybe like a Cooper Kupp would be a nice little guy to get in there. Marquise going maybe Pierre Garçon or a Sammy Watkins, something like that, or a Kelvin Benjamin even as a second guy receiver, because AJ Green's going to get touches. I don't know how often the Bengals are going to get in the end zone this year, but AJ Green good touches. He's a deep threat. So I mean, lots of options there when it comes to guys. So AJ Green, he just needs to. I never thought the guy was going to have this kind of spark in him. Obviously, he has had some issues with some behavior on the field due to. I mean, last year he had a big issue. I think he got suspended, I think, for a couple of games because of outburst that he had on the field last season. I didn't think that was going to happen at all. But I mean, this is a guy who's had success since high school, probably went to Georgia, and has had success in the NFL. Todd Gurley along with him. I mean, look at this Georgia and the top. Their guy right now they have 5 players in that ESPN top 100. It's Todd Gurley, AJ Green, Matt Stafford, who I actually love. If you think quarterbacks are a dime a dozen and you're willing to mix and match and work at your quarterback position the whole year, which is not a bad thing to do, just wait and pick Matt Stafford. That's a no-brainer. He's really, really nice. I like him as a fantasy quarterback because he throws the ball a lot. I don't know how it is going to... That's the one... There's always a red flag. There's so many variables in the NFL and fantasy. It might not make or break your league or your team, but it's going to... it's always something to think about. They have a new coach there in Detroit. So, and they also have a lot of running backs in Detroit. They drafted a running back in Kerryon Johnson. They still have Amir Abdullah. They still have they still have Theo Riddick. They got LeGarrette Blount. So they have 4 running backs right now. I think one of those, I think Riddick or Abdullah is going to be gone. So they're going to go back down to 3, which is probably where you want to be anyways. Because Riddick and Abdullah are pretty similar. Then you have a Sonny Michel. Then you have a Kerryon Johnson, who's a nice speed back, but also can get through the line, get through a tackle and catch the ball in the backfield. Then you have a real bruiser in LeGarrette Blount. So we'll see how often they're going to be, if they're going to be changed, if Matt Patricia, the new head coach there, who's more defensive minded, so you're going to probably have I don't know, I have to look up who their offensive is. They still have Jim Bob Cooter over there. That's not kidding. That was the offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions last year. So I don't know if they still have him over there, but he likes to throw the ball down the field. He's good, very good offensive coordinator. So whether it's going to be more of short passes for Stafford, West Coast offense, short passes, use Golden Tate in the short passing game, maybe use Marvin Lewis to go off the top more, because he's got good weapons in the passing game. And then also you can throw it to Kerryon Johnson, you can throw it to Riddick, you can throw it to Blount. So I think he's going to get plenty of opportunities to throw the football, but they're probably going to run the ball a little bit more, change that balance a little bit. But I still love Matthew Stafford as a value guy you can get late, probably in the draft, and still have a lot of talent to around him in your roster. So definitely a thing to take there. Georgia players come in clutch with Stafford, and then Geno Atkins and Thomas Davis, 2 defensive players, also on the top 100 from Georgia, as they continue their pedigree of great football and great NFL play as well. All right, that'll wrap it up for this segment. We'll come back in just a moment after the messages, and we'll do the final segment of the day, and we'll talk about some more guys. I think there's a few more schools to go over here. I think LSU, Cal, Stanford, and Florida State are also on this list with a handful of players each. So we'll go over those in just a moment. So stay tuned.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts, past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
All right, welcome back to GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast on a Thursday. Final segment of the day today here as we're going through some of the top college players to come out and play well in the NFL. I know I did talk about Christian McCaffrey a little bit. I did talk about him because he's actually done some stuff in the NFL and had the stats in college that seemed like they were going to translate well into the NFL, unlike the other guy I talked about a little bit that has not played a game yet. But we're all waiting with bated breath for that first game for the Giants to see Saquon play. I'm sure he's gonna be fine. Honestly, he's not really that bustable. I don't think he's gonna be a bust. I just don't think he's gonna be the next like Adrian Peterson or something like that, like people have been saying. Or I don't know if he's been getting that kind of comparison, but that's kind of the hype he's getting, as if he is Adrian Peterson. I mean, we saw what Adrian Peterson did in college. I haven't seen Saquon do stuff like that. So I know it's a different kind of game. Adrian broke a lot of tackles and stuff. This is going to be more. I think Saquon will make a lot of his bones through the passing game, and I think that's going to be a big deal also through play action as well. So he'll be a nice little way to set the tone for the Giants this season. I just think in that division right now in the league, the way the league is, I know Zeke has done a lot of stuff, but the Cowboys didn't only get Zeke. They got a quarterback too. They got both. So I know that the Giants, they have Davis Webb. I think they did draft a quarterback in the later rounds of this draft from somewhere. or another. So not one of the top guys, not even a Mason Rudolph. So the Giants, I don't know what their plan is after Peyton. After Eli. Sorry, Eli, but after Eli. All right, going back to what we were talking about just in the last segment, those college players. I talked about A.J. Green a little bit, Todd Gurley. Obviously, we all know Todd Gurley went to Georgia. We all know Todd Gurley probably should have won the MVP last year, but no, we got to give it to Tom Brady because quarterbacks are the rulers of the world, and Tom Brady's the GOAT and the love child of the NFL. So we'll just leave it at that. Todd Gurley got robbed, but it's whatever. So Todd Gurley was the number 6 player on the NFL's top 100, and he obviously went to Georgia, had a great career at Georgia, like a lot of the running backs. I'm looking forward to see if Saquon will live up to the hype. That's what I'm looking forward to for Saquon, but I'm looking forward just to see Nick Chubb and Sony Michel play, just in general. Nick Chubb, I think on the Browns, we'll see how he does. It's kind of a crowded backfield there, but Sony Michel on the Patriots, whoo-wee. I think that's what a fit for him. To get with Tom Brady your first year in the NFL is going to teach you so much stuff, I think, when it comes to being a pass-catching running back and a speed back like him. What a pick there, by the way. I was kind of peeved, not being a Patriots fan, not really a big Belichick fan at all, but what a pick right there. All right, getting into the LSU, there's some big fantasy players on here. Obviously, LSU has Leonard Fournette, who we all like to think about. He was number 58 on the NFL's top 100. I love Leonard Fournette's great. He's a good. If I was going to have him on my team, I think the thing is he's kind of his draft position is kind of a weird position. Depends what you want. So if you he's a guy who you're probably going to pick with the early second round pick if you're late in the draft. And you get a receiver like a Michael Thomas or a DeAndre Hopkins or something like that, or a Julio, and you pick him like a 6th or 7th or 8th, and then you have like a mid-round second pick, and all the running backs are gone, and all there's left is Leonard Fournette, and you're like, okay, I'll take him, and then hopefully get like a pass-catching back out of the backfield, because he's not going to catch many passes out of the backfield. He's more of that ground and pound kind of, just give it to me in power offense, power running game. Which is fine. It works in the NFL. The Jaguars were very good last year, and he was able to set up a lot of easy passes for Blake Bortles as well with play action. So love Leonard Fournette, but if I went on fantasy, I'd pick him. I would pick him if he was available, and I already had a big receiver, and then I would look for a pass catching running back to go along with him, because he's not going to do that as much for you. So you'd want like if you can get a McKinnon maybe in that 3rd round, or a Sony Michel, exactly, if you want to go for the rookie. Or something like that. So or McCaffrey if you can. The thing is, those pass catching running backs are going to go quick. All those running backs are going to go really quick. So off the top of that draft, maybe a Kerryon Johnson too. So you got to think about that if you're thinking about drafting Leonard Fournette. Obviously, we know that there's a couple other guys who went to the LSU and their buddies. And one's on the Browns, one's on the Giants now. We got Jarvis Landry and Odell. Jarvis, I know he's all hyped about going to Cleveland and everything. I'm not sure how that's going to work out, as Cleveland is just the land of lost, misfit, broken toys, I guess. And just you have Hugh Jackson as your head coach. I love Hugh's a nice guy. He's good with the media, but he couldn't coach the Raiders. He got fired by the Raiders. The Raiders. You think he's going to find success with the Browns, a team that hasn't had success in decades? A team that Bill Belichick just turned his nose up and is like, I'm too good for this. Can't do it. Sorry. The Raiders. And you drafted Baker Mayfield, which is, that could be the best thing ever. I don't think it is, because I think Baker's too short. I think he's, I don't know if he's not a Russell Wilson. That team isn't the Seahawks. You think Russell Wilson would have done good on that team? He would have done okay. He wouldn't have a ring. The Seahawks were good. They had a defense. You have to give the Browns a little bit of credit, though. They've actually gotten their defense kind of figured out. You're gonna have Myles Garrett. You missed out on Bradley Chubb, but I think the fact that you already have a Myles Garrett is the reason why they didn't pick Bradley Chubb, and they did pick Denzel Ward, because they needed another big stalwart there on the outside when it comes to the corner. Because remember, they had Joe Hayden for all those years, and Joe Hayden's a Pro Bowl corner. Joe Hayden's no longer in Cleveland, so they needed a guy to replace him. So I was not surprised whatsoever by that Denzel Ward pick. After I thought about it for a little bit, people were like, "Oh my God, way too early." But I'm like, honestly, that's what they needed. He might be the best player on the defense out of that draft because he's very good out of Ohio State, Denzel Ward. But so speaking of corners, obviously LSU was the alma mater of Patrick Peterson. As far as Odell Beckham goes, I don't know what to think about Odell. Odell is just so mysterious to me. He's diva, picks fights with nets, wants to get fed before at the early game. He'll just be lost if he doesn't get 4 or 5 catches in the first quarter. All of a sudden, he doesn't. What is he going to do? Stop running his routes? Is that what he does? If he doesn't get fed in the first half or the first few drives of the game, he's going to start pulling off his routes a little bit. What? Why does he need to get fed? You should run your routes hard every game. You'll get open. If you get open, you'll get found. That's how the game works. I hate this. Odell needs touches in the beginning of the game. No, I don't want that. I don't like that at all. Never been a fan of it. It's called selfishness. Whoever's open is open. If Evan Ingram is open more than you are, he's going to get more of the balls than you. If Sterling Shepard is open more than you are, he's going to get more of the balls. I'm not going to force it in. I'm not going to risk interceptions to get you your touches. I could care less about your touches. I care less. This is why I don't pick him on my fantasy team. It's why he's persona non grata on my fantasy team. And it's also injury prone because he's got little inch thick ankles. I know he's fast, he's great, he's elusive, he's in an open field, awesome. But honestly, look at the win-loss record with the Giants with him in the roster and out of the roster. It doesn't really change that much. He actually doesn't equate wins to them. Receivers don't really do that anyways. But the thing is, this is a fantasy show, not are the Giants going to win show. So, I mean, yeah, he's going to get your points. He's going to get you points in fantasy. He's a late first-round pick for me in my fantasy boards. Probably like around the 10th pick. I'd put 3 receivers in front of him. That'd be Brown. I put 4 receivers in front of him. Brown, Jones, Julio Jones, Michael Thomas, and DeAndre Hopkins, all in front of him, easily in front of him. And if I could think of a couple more things off the top of my head, I want to see DJ Moore play. I probably could put a couple guys in front of him, more guys in front of him. So he's a diva. He's short, number one. I like tall receivers. I like receivers who can go get the ball. I don't like having to, just run honestly, if I were the Giants, he's running a slant every time because he'll get open probably half the time and he'll be able to run and get a first down. If he's open on a slant play and there's nobody in the middle of the field, like his safety's backed off, and the linebackers are doing something else, it's an automatic first down. He's running a slant every single play until they just stop it. Then you could run a slug go or something like that. So, I mean, he's fast. I'll give him that. He's fast, but he's also kind of spindly and not my favorite in the world at all. The other guy in LSU is actually one of the biggest acquisitions of the year last year that kind of went under the radar. That's Andrew Whitworth, the offensive lineman for the Los Angeles Rams, and he was in this top 100 list. He went to LSU, and he's a very good player. And one of the reasons why Todd Gurley had the year he had last year, and why Jared Goff had the year he had last year compared to the year before, because they had no help in the offensive line. Goff was running for his life. Andrew Whitworth was a huge addition for that offensive line there in Los Angeles. All right, a couple more players. Obviously, it's kind of funny. The 2 Pac-12 schools in the Bay Area have a lot of NFL talent. Aaron Rodgers, the best quarterback in my mind in the NFL. I'm sorry, Brady, but Aaron Rodgers is better. I like Aaron better. This is the way it is. He plays up there in Green Bay. Cameron Jordan, who's a very good player on the defensive side. Then you have Jared Goff. Obviously, we know what he can do. And Keenan Allen. Actually, there's your guy. Thank you, Cal, for bringing him up. I put him in front of Odell. He's in front of Odell right now. He's in front of Odell. I think he's a better player than Odell Beckham. And yeah, so does the NFL players. Look at Odell Beckham was number 77 on the list, and Keenan Allen 41. I know Odell was hurt last year, and Keenan was not. Keenan was eating last year. Keenan was putting up points last year, and honestly, there's your guy. Also, kind of the same. I wouldn't put him in the same ballpark as AJ Green, but also, I mean, a guy you probably could get as a value pick early in the second round. If you have a late first round pick and you're doing a snake draft and you pick a running back late in that first round, like a Kamara, or maybe even a Saquon Barkley or something like that, or a Kareem Hunt, and you have another pick in that second round, boom, right there. You don't have a receiver yet. It's Keenan Allen, easy money pickings right there. And then over to Stanford, they have a couple guys who we know. One is Richard Sherman, obviously, and then Zach Ertz, Super Bowl winning catch last year, and Doug Baldwin, another good receiver out there. Doug Baldwin's going to get touches. That's the thing. That's why he's so high up in the draft boards, because for fantasy, because he's a volume threat, because there's nobody else to throw the ball to in Seattle. I don't know how he's going to get open, though. That's the problem. And then David DeCastro is a very good lineman I think he's on the Steelers these days. And then right now, and then also with 4 is Florida State, Jalen Ramsey. This is mostly defense. Jalen Ramsey, Xavier Rhodes, and Telvin Smith are all defensive players. And then Devonta Freeman, honestly. Devonta Freeman's a nice little running back. I like Devonta Freeman, as he's another guy who could be an easy flex player, easy running back 2, going to get you some points. He's the number 1 guy that like to be. Dan Quinn likes to keep it an even keel there in Atlanta. He likes to go mix the pass and the run. He's going to get catches out of the backfield. He's a great pass blocker. He's a nice pass blocker for Matt Ryan. Not that matters in fantasy all that much, but he's going to get his touches, and he's a good little player. And he's actually I know he's probably one of the more mad people along with Matt Ryan that Kyle Shanahan left because they were very, very dynamic in that Kyle Shanahan offense. But you learn things, and you probably can hold on to some of the things he was able to implement when he was there down in Atlanta and they went to the Super Bowl. All right, that'll wrap it up for the show today. That was it. I mean, those are your top schools, most players by school. We kind of went through it, and I gave you my fantasy outlooks for each player. Kind of gave you who, obviously, you know who I like and don't like, who I'm high on and who I'm not high on. I kind of tend to take the not so flashy player. I like the grounder. The grinder. I like the grinder. I like the guy who doesn't really get up on the top page of the sporting news page, like a Michael Thomas. I know Keenan Allen can be actually kind of flashy, but he isn't. He plays for the Chargers, so I mean, he's going to stay healthy. Hopefully, you saw what he did when he has a full year of health last year, and you saw what he can do against a defense all by himself. So you'll like him as well. So there's lots of good guys on this list, as well as others that I could talk about on Tuesday. So we'll be back on Tuesday. I know if you guys like the college stuff, I know I brought some kind of college into the show today. I also host the GSMC Football Podcast, the college football edition of that podcast. It's on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, usually uploaded by around 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So go check that one out. The other episodes along with that football podcast are also some NFL talk with Jesse, the other host here at the GSMC Podcast Network. So make sure you go check those out if you love your football. As we're getting closer and closer, we're almost a month away from the start of preseason. So everybody, just hold on to your seats. It'll be a fun ride throughout this whole 2018 season. As we're getting ready for it. I honestly cannot wait. It's gonna be so fun. We'll be with you all along the way. So everybody have a good rest of your week. We're back on and a good weekend. We're back on Tuesday, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Fantasy Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.